Hello, I hope you're enjoying the Easter weekend. My name is Craig Leyland. I'm leader of East Lindsey District Council and ward member for Woodhall Spa Kirkby on Bain. A few days ago, I did a video highlighting the inaccuracies and misdirection in Mr Farage's reform campaign locally. Of course, we're coming up to the elections on the 1st of May. It's some 10 days away, and that's for the county council and for the new mayoral position. It's really important that we understand what's being said out there. And of course, there's many different parties engaging in this process. But unfortunately, I do keep coming back to Mr Farage's Reform Party. And some of the stuff that's being put out by his candidates is misdirection and is misleading. And you'd be forgiven for thinking that actually we're electing 70 MPs rather than 70 county councillors. There's a strong indication and strong inference on those campaign leaflets that they're going to change policy at county council, which in effect is Westminster policy. We're impacted by it, of course, but actually we don't direct that policy. So getting back to the business of critiquing and picking holes in the reform leaflets, let's go to a candidate who's standing for Tatchell Castle. Now, in his leaflet that's been sent to me, it says in very bold type, stop the council from flooding the area with undocumented migrants. It goes on to say, we should not be using taxpayers' money to house migrants in the empty military houses here in Tatchell Castle. House our veterans first. Now, just for background, all the councils in Lincolnshire, we're all signed up to the Armed Forces Covenant, and we're all part of the Armed Forces Covenant Community Partnership. And a very good friend of mine and colleague, Richard Wright, sits on that. He's also part of the East Midlands Migration Board and is a veteran himself, so can speak with some authority on this. And when I showed this statement to him, he made very clear what the use of that MOD property is for. It is for those Afghan refugees that had to flee Afghanistan after the collapse of our Western interests there and the takeover by the Taliban. If you remember, their lives were threatened, and we did the right thing by bringing them to this country to start new lives, given that they had risked their lives to support our troops when we were out there. That is what this property is being used for, and it's on a temporary basis, and that temporary use is soon to end. And that's for housing our veterans first. We are fortunate in Lincolnshire to broadly not have a problem with homeless veterans. As we are part of the covenant, all our housing officers do the best that they can to support veterans when they come across those cases, sometimes complicated by mental health issues with the veterans who are homeless, but we deal with it as best as we can. But broadly, we do not have a homelessness problem for veterans in Lincolnshire. So that statement is very inaccurate, and I thank my friend Richard for clarifying that and making sure that we have that correct information. On the same leaflet, he goes on to say, this candidate in Tatchell Castle goes on to say that, he opposes the council tax hike from the Conservatives, and it goes on to say, I will fight for smarter, more efficient use of taxpayers' money to improve services without raising costs, common sense policies to save money. Grand statement, but doesn't actually mean a lot. What are common sense policies? And of course, the county council have a lot of responsibilities and they have to deliver them really well. And they're judged by others to do that, from good to outstanding. Adult and children's services, should I say, fire service, transport, children's school transport, a whole raft of things that impact on our daily lives. And it's important that we have competent, capable people delivering that. And I'm a Conservative, and of course I'm going to be supporting my Conservative colleagues at the County Council to continue that good work. And in general, they do a pretty good job. So let's look at that statement. The reality is that council tax at Lincolnshire County Council for the 25-26 financial year has gone up by 2.99%. The government's rules cap council tax increases, and for the county council, that's capped at 5%. So they've put their council tax up by 2.99% under that cap, and it's recognised that Lincolnshire County Council have one of the lowest council taxes in the country, and they do very well with the monies that they have to invest and use. And of course, we've heard the reform charge that £460 million borrowing is unnecessary and they're going to get rid of that. good luck with that, chaps, because if you do that, you're going to have to really hit other services that the county council provides well. That borrowing is prudent and also enables them to deliver massive infrastructure projects that we need to see across the county. And that prudent nature of their financial management means that they can only increase their council tax by 2.99%. They've used reserves and additional savings to support that. And as a wider background picture, government funding to local government has changed, and Lincolnshire County Council are impacted to the detriment by some £20 million from central government, which will not be coming to Lincolnshire. So they have to manage that really carefully, and they do a good job. So I think that debunks that quite clearly. I'd also like to move on to a statement that was made by Mr. Farage's Reform candidate for the mayoral election, and that is Andrea Jenkyns, or Dame Andrea Jenkyns to give her her full title. In a statement that she put on Facebook a few weeks ago, and I'll read it out carefully. In some of our towns, 25% of social housing goes to people not even born in Britain. We need a Lincolnshire People First policy, no more soft touch. Those are her words, published on Facebook and quite easily accessible so that you can check what I'm saying. Now, the reality is, and I know this because my council is in partnership with Boston and South Holland, the reality is that there is a local connection if you want to register, put yourself on the housing register. And it's very clear, and I have the document in front of me, or a copy of the document in front of me, about what that local connection is. So the statement by Andrea Jenkyns implies that you shouldn't be able to register if you're not British. Well, interestingly, the reality is that you can have a local connection without being born in Britain. And the statistic that she raises that in some of our towns, plural, 25% of social housing goes to people not even born in Britain. That needs further analysis. And I have the detailed analysis of that in front of me. So what she's referring to is Boston. And in Boston, 78% of people on the lettings for social housing have a UK national lead tenant. That's government speak for born in Britain. East Lindsey, 98%, Lincoln, 91%, North Kesteven, 94%, South Holland, 85%, South Kesteven, 86%, West Lindsey and West Lindsey, 95%. So that statement by Andrea Jenkyns specifically refers to Boston. And the reality is, as I say, you could have a local connection without necessarily being born in Britain. And it's worth looking up, actually, if you want to go onto the East Lindsey website. It's very clearly demonstrated what I'm saying. Now, if my circumstances changed and I needed the support of social housing or being looked to put on the housing register, I've lived in this country for 35 years. I've worked here. I've had a business here for 35 years, contributed tax-wise, brought up children here, also had a life as a district councillor, engaging with community issues. If I wanted to apply to be on the social housing register, in Andrea Jenkyns' world, I would not be able to because I was born in South Africa. Thank you, Andrea. Very kind of you. We know what the subtext is here, really, don't we? So those are some of the things that we're picking up about the reform campaign. It's interesting. I noticed another candidate, locally, reform candidate, putting out a video looking into the long distance, extolling her British values and how she values being British, which is great. You know, it's a wonderful thing to be British. We have a great country, and we pride ourselves on being fair and playing the game, as it were. So if I can continue with that cricket analogy, it's a shame that we don't have an umpire in place to make sure that all these facts that are given out by the political parties, and it would apply across the board, Conservative, Green, Liberal Democrats, Independents, Labour, if you're putting out a statement, it's sort of fact-checked and understood if it's real or fictional or misdirecting issues. So we could have an umpire, couldn't we, that could declare something as wide of the mark or out or over the line. But I do fear if I was that umpire, I'd be hit over the head by a cricket bat if I got a judgment wrong. So, yeah, if you want to check what is being said politically, do some research, triangulate what's being said, and then you'll come up with the reality of where we're at. And unfortunately, as I say, Mr. Farage's Reform Party keep implying things that are incorrect and misdirecting the facts as they stand. Lincolnshire County Council do quite a good job. They're my Conservative colleagues. I want to see them re-elected, obviously, but they do a pretty good job at delivering the services for residents over a big area with many challenges. Thank you for your time. Really pleased that you indulged me for the last 10 or so minutes listening to what I've got to say. And I might talk about the Merrill election shortly, because that's another thing that's going to be interesting. And again, some of the things that are being said need challenging. Anyway, see you later. Thanks for your time. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.